Internet, and welcome to episode 38 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. You join myself, Chris, and my two co-hosts in the cubes. We have to my left, I still got it wrong again, to my left we've got the return of Morph himself, the techie teacher, Mr. Tom. How are you doing?
Big morph wave.
And below him we've got the Wolverine to my Gambit, the man of many pixels, Richie, as well, joining us once again for episode 38. Now, before we jump into the craziest busy week Stadia news, Tom, do you understand the Morph reference?
No, Chris, please explain the morph reference to me, because I'm still blind to it.
So obviously...
Nah, I think we're good.
Right, so I suppose it forms part of the housekeeping. Welcome everybody, by the way. Sounds of Stadia podcast. We bring you a weekly podcast breaking down all the Stadia news in the world of gaming. And it's been one hell of a week. So to keep things ticking along at a nice pace for all you listeners and viewers out there, we'll get into some housekeeping. Myself and Richie and Tom actually as well, we've all been busy this week. So after last week, and we gave out much needed recognition for some of these Sounds of Stadia, some of the Stadia community. We didn't give I suppose we did give ourselves a little bit of recognition at the end.
You did actually. You did.
I did. So it's only fair. It's only fair. It's equally distributed. In terms of ourselves, we jumped over to Rock, our friend Rock, and his channel for his show, which is Rock Around the Clock, where we essentially talked about any of the Stadia news. Specifically, I think we went into communication issues, which was the topic of the week, I think, until the tail end, where we showed up and discussed all things with Rock over there. It was really good. If you haven't checked it out already, head over. It's about an hour or so long. And we do delve into some deep-rooted discussions around Stadia. We then followed that up with, on the keep me straight, Richie, it was the Friday, if I'm not correct? Yeah,
yes, it was Friday.
One of the days. We head over
Friday.
to Club Stadia's channel with Brian, Chase, and MM2K from the Stadia Initiative podcast, where we talked again about all things communication, some of the Sony PlayStation stuff that was announced at the end of the week. You may have heard of it. And a couple of other bits and pieces. However, what we did pose to him, Tom, was as they rightly class themselves as the Avengers, the Stadia Initiative, the Avenger Initiative. If you've not seen their movies, again, they're a little small indie type movie you may have heard of. Bringing a couple of $100,000 per movie, I've heard. Some up and coming actors sprinkled throughout. And obviously Brian himself is down as Captain America, which, Tom, you're sporting a lovely Captain America.
He's doing it in his honour as well. I wanted to give him a quick shout out as well for his charity stream, actually, too, which went down really well for Black Lives Matter. So supporting you today, Cap, hats off to you. Well done.
It was really, really good. If you've not headed over to there, check that stream out as well. They played Just Dance. Very, very funny. I know Eddie dropped in with his little kid as well. Very funny to watch. And they're obviously all for a great cause as well. So if you've not headed over, donate anything that you can. All helps towards a rightful, really great cause. But Tom, in and amongst that, we wrapped up the episode by obviously talking about our own podcast, what we get up to. And that brought us to the light that I asked if we could have the honour of being the X-Men to their Avengers. Which they graciously said straight away. I was going to give them a moment to think about it, maybe check with their colleagues. But they said, yeah, go ahead with it. So me and Richie took some time to kind of decide what we wanted to be. And unfortunately, you weren't in the room. Yeah. So Richie pleasantly donned you with Morph, which is a lesser known X-Men.
Cheers.
From the, obviously, the 90s, 80s, 90s cartoon? 80s?
Yeah,
90s. Early 90s cartoon. It's available on Disney Plus now. But yes, so I took the mantle of Gambit. That is pretty cool. Throw some cards around, I'll take that. Richie, Wolverine, he's got a beard and he's quite short than the rest of us.
Chris just suggested Wolverine to me on them terms. I went, yeah, okay, I'll be Wolverine.
Yeah, sure, why not? No, Chris. Jubilee. Right, well, how did you get to that one?
I was just trying to think of all the shittest X-Men.
Okay, so you've gone with Morph.
So, Morph, yeah,
we can revise it. We can retcon it if we want to.
That's fine. Is there anyone who jumps out to you, Tom, as an X-Man?
Apart from the skin tone, I certainly do believe myself to be a bit of a Hank McCoy, a bit of a beast.
Okay. Hanging from the ceiling. That's okay. That's
I like to be up there rather than down here, and I do tend to should we say the X-Men's version of hulking out, shall we call it, as well.
So you're happy with
who cares? You've given me that short notice.
You'll have to get back to us next week on that. But now you know what it was. So obviously, Richie tagged you on Twitter with Morph, the little plasticine character, and that we thought that would just add another element of confusion to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Certainly does.
Which was crazy. So then, off the back of all
in
that,
the morning or something as well.
yeah, exactly. What a thing to wake up to. Why am I being called Morph by the community? But off the back of that, we then followed that up with, in between the Stadia Initiative podcast, myself and Richie jumped over to continue our road to Valhalla. Once again, playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey with Cassandra. It's getting to a really good, interesting turning point in the conversation now in the story. We're on hunt for a mother, so join us again if you're not already over there. We had loads of people join us from the Stadia Initiative podcast as well, and then we pinged them back over to Brian to continue for their main episode. So again, very, very busy. Check that out if you've not already done so. And then we wrap up the week on the weekend, as we always do, with Richie reaching the is this the penultimate episode, or we've got another two?
No, next week will be the penultimate. It's a 10-episode series, which is kind of nice, actually. It's just the way I cut down into like a nice 10-episode block. We are very much getting towards the end now.
Oh, it's exciting stuff. So check that out as well if you've not already done so. Again, it's all there to binge, available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia. And again, don't forget to give the videos a like. It does help out. I don't know why I said like that. Like. Give it a like. It definitely helps out. And if you've not already done so, subscribe to the channel down below. It really does help us out. And more importantly, it keeps you in the loop with all the content that we've just listed off. How would you know about it if you weren't following us on YouTube or over on twitter.com/Sounds of Stadia? So thank you very, very much. We do have one retcon ritual to cover off this week as well. Off the back of all of us thanking the community last week, we were caught out, unfortunately. We did the rudest, most terrible thing you could possibly do, which is say somebody is younger than they actually are. To a point where, Tom, would you like to cover that one off as a quick apology?
Yeah, so shout out to our boy Raph. I can't call him a boy anymore. He's actually a man. So turns out Raph isn't 19. He's actually in his late 20s. So Raph, I am deeply sorry if I offended you by calling you 19 years old. Clearly you're a man with much more wisdom than I. So I'll take my humble pie and I'll eat it as well. So yes, the quick retcon, but there you have it.
Nice and quick and easy, which we need to be nice and quick this week because it's been so crazy busy. As part of the retcon ritual, Richie, I will let the world know as well if you didn't realise that. Myself and Richie thought for our patrons this last week we would record a reaction to the PlayStation 5 reveal event, the future of gaming, as they so stated. So myself and Richie poured ourselves a drink, we sat down, we recorded it all offline, and it was going to go live for our patrons, probably eventually for the channel, but with it being PlayStation news, we didn't want to keep it on our main channel, as we are a Stadia-centric channel after all. And after 2 hours of great talk, I guess some of the games nice and early. We had great back and forward about predictions, hopes and dreams, our thoughts on it, how it would combat Stadia, the future of gaming essentially. I realised just after we were wrapping up the conversation I had forgot to hit record, and it's all just lost in the ether now. So 2 hours of pure quality content.
I think
no one will
it
ever
was
see.
A really good show. It would have been a really good show as well.
It was. We had some quality rich games to talk about, our impressions and such, and how hyped it was. And all flushed down the toilet because I didn't hit record. And lessons learned. Hopefully this podcast is reaching you because we recorded it. Yeah. We have done triple checks now on that, and hopefully you can hear us all as well. And
the best of us, Chris. Happens to the best of us.
It does indeed. But you know what? We just wanted to let you know that we did intend to do it. Maybe next time. Maybe for the PlayStation 6 we'll do something like that in a decade's time.
The worst thing about it is you even did a quick test recording right at the start before the show went live. Like, yep, that's good. We're good to go.
Rookie mistake. Who's the naive 19-year-old now who doesn't know what he's doing? Anyway, though, the great thing with, I suppose, the lack thereof of PlayStation 5 recording doesn't really matter because this week has been stacked. This back end of the week has been mega stacked with news about. We've got game releases that shouldn't have came out. We've got gaming divisions being bought. We've got new game announcements. We've got massive community updates that are rolling out, like future road mapping for games that we all love. The list goes on, and we'll delve right into that with
sexy special Stadia story segment, aka
the news. It is one hell of a news week this week, and I believe it only started on Thursday. Pretty much Thursday, the community was up in awe about the lack of communication, the lack of messages, and thankfully, from third-party sources, news outlets, competition, it's all just kind of boiled over and exploded like a volcano, and here we are. The biggest thing I think we've dropped in at the top of the list. it's kind of quite serious from a Stadia standpoint. I'm very interested to see the repercussions, but essentially the Ubisoft very anticipated title Gods and Monsters, out of the blue, bear in mind we've only seen an E3 trailer for this about a year or so ago, out of the blue, available on the Stadia store under the codename Orpheus to buy for not only for free, there was no price attached to it, but to play. And some people out there, Eddie Player One for example, and a couple of other people, Link TV, massive shout out to you guys, were quick off the bat, and you managed to capture game footage recording of the game in action. Gentlemen, what the hell?
It's impressive work considering it was up for less than half an hour. They actually get some footage from it.
I can't believe it.
Yeah,
I think it's important to remember first of all that we know, or there is news out there that says that Ubisoft has been testing their games on the Stadia platform. They've been actively testing it. So clearly somebody pressed the wrong button and flicked the wrong switch at some point on Stadia's end. So big oops.
It raises questions. Does Google not have like a test server set up, like independent of the main server, to prevent stuff like this? So if someone does accidentally hit go live, it just goes live on the test server, not to the entire world.
Doesn't seem that way at all, does it really? It's also important to note that actually this was an E3 from the E3 2019 build. It wasn't the complete game. Again, because of this, there's been a lot of like a bit of a hustle and bustle in the community as well, of people saying, oh, it looks awful, it's using like loan systems from Assassin's Creed Odyssey and stuff like that as well. But it was an older build, so again, it's still sort of like alpha at that point. It certainly was in alpha as well. But what did you think of the footage, Chris?
I was quite excited anyway. I know leading into even seeing these leaks, it looks like they've taken Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they've took Zelda Breath of the Wild, they've mashed them together, and you get a game out of it that's going to feature gods and monsters from Greek times. Like that sounds fantastic.
On that point, actually, briefly, they are now referring to the titles of Gods and Monsters and Orpheus as both in development titles, so it may come out as a completely different name. Yeah,
I did see some people like when kind of Ubisoft came out and corrected the kind of retrospectively saying it was an alpha build, it was from the E3 demo, and then coming out as Orpheus. It does beg the question: are they planning on releasing this as something different? Is Gods and Monsters maybe it's not landed as well? I know we've theorised about. I can't even think of the name. Skull and Bones. Also, possibly getting a remake name and coming out under a different guise. And the great thing with games that are always in development is, until you kind of print the disc essentially and get it out there and start marketing it, it doesn't really matter. I was quite taken by the name Gods and Monsters anyway. It wasn't a name that I looked at. Orpheus. Again, I'd probably prefer Gods and Monsters out of the two of them, but we know it's a working title.
Yeah. Although sounds like the Project Orpheus, that's what we're going to codename this.
Yeah. But then again, I suppose leaking it under a different working title name doesn't really make a difference when people know what game it is. As soon as they get to clap eyes on it, I would have clocked it as Gods and Monsters before even seeing Orpheus.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it dropping on the store out of the blue caught a lot of people off guard. I know, no doubt, you guys checked right to see if it was there.
Oh yeah, I think I was like at the point that people were saying on Twitter 11 minutes after the event, and it was already gone at that point. So very quickly rectified. But I suppose there's one positive we can take out of this. Once again, it's evidence right there of how quickly Stadia can push games to launch that fast.
Yeah, a little too quick.
If it was another platform, they wouldn't have even downloaded half the game before it would have been taken down. Download would have stopped in an error message or something.
Pros and cons. It depends on which side of the fence you sit.
I think there's some work to be done on the back end for Stadia there. I mentioned having some sort of test server build for developers to work with, having like maybe two-factor release, so you can't just accidentally
nuke launch keys and codes and stuff like that.
Yeah, because two buttons. It is live instantly, and this actually can be a little damaging, unfairly damaging on the game because, well, it's a pre-alpha build that's completely out of date, and if people start judging the game based on that, it's just not really fair.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen
this image in my mind. Sorry, I've got this image in my mind now of Phil Harrison at one end of the room and Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft at the other end, and they've both got to use their keys and push the button at the same time.
You'd think so. It does beg the question: how simple? Like, how does something like this happen? Like, it hasn't just accidentally done it. Someone has, like you said, turned the switch. And it's gone live, and obviously somebody's noticed that because shortly after the game was pulled, Stadia went down for a brief moment. I think it was 10, 20 minutes or something, where you couldn't boot up any game. It was you could get into the title screens, and as soon as you hit play, you just got an error message. Do we think this is in response to making sure no one who had access can be playing it? Like, kick everyone out who was essentially playing the game? Just shut down everything?
I am less inclined to think that, because I do remember reports of when the game went out that people couldn't actually boot the game up after a certain time, and this is while the Stadia service was still live. Right. I think the Stadia service going down is actually more akin to them rolling out additional features. We know this past week that they added the touch controls for all mobile devices, as well as we can now actually access the different visual settings on Chromecast, and we can also have experimental support on all ranges of Android phones now. So I think it was more attuned to that actually happening, as opposed to the Gods and Monsters League.
Big update. That was the first time I'd noticed it going like offline. I hadn't really heard anyone saying Stadia's been off since launch. I've never had an issue, so it was interesting how it happened.
I had the same impression as you, Tom, but I think that's a point of annoyance, actually. If they pulled it because something's went leaked and they need to troubleshoot quickly, instantly pull it, that's one thing. A planned update and not informing people is a completely different ball game. It's like, how hard is it to get a message out to your players going, in 15 minutes the server's going to shut down for scheduled maintenance? Yeah. Every MMO does it routinely. Yeah.
Which does beg the question, was it for other reasons then? If it wasn't a scheduled update, because we won't uproot the whole communication or lack thereof argument from last week. There's a whole episode about it. You should go check it out. But in terms of it happening so random, the laughable thing again, Destiny's Twitter account acknowledged it straight away. We're down, we don't know why, but we're aware of Stadia players not able to get onto Destiny 2. And then on the flip side of that, Google, all quiet, silence, no response. Even after the fact it was up and running, there was no message to say service should be up and running now, play games, enjoy. It was just silence.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, it kind of did coincide, because I remember seeing the article come out saying, touch controls are live. Checked it, they weren't. And then the servers went down. When they came back up, the touch controls were there.
Yeah, they did respond to a few people on Twitter and say, in like replies, and say basically that the features would be rolled out gradually throughout the course of the day, so 24 hours. I think that's always a safe bet to assume now. Anything that drops, especially with the different time zones, never to expect it bang on the hour for everybody globally. It's clearly rolled out.
Just put that in your messaging. Roll out this, but it was live today.
It just seems like some of the rollouts of features do tend to trickle out, because I know after the announcement came out, the first thing I did was jump on my Chromecast Ultra to check out to see if I could change the visual settings, and it was there straight away. But I saw people tweeting about it, I think the following day, still saying like, oh, it's not there yet for me, or I've just received it and stuff. So it's interesting how that actually works, and what happens behind the scenes to actually allow that to hit someone's platform, basically.
I wonder if it's like a sequential thing where they have to shut off some servers to upload it and do it sequentially. So
maybe.
One's going offline, one's rebooting. That's why it has to be. So you can still, to that way, the servers that are still live can carry the load. Yeah. While your dedicated region server reboots, then you get it.
Yeah, certainly. And so with all this, with the stuff leaking, do we think this means that Gods and Monsters is on the cusp of a release maybe by the end of the year? I mean, it was supposed to be out by now, right? Originally, and then it was pushed back from February along with Watch Dogs, if I recall correctly.
I'm kind of thinking that this mistake might have happened while they're trying to take down this build of the game from the servers. Maybe they're getting to the point where they want to test the new. They've been working on it when they get the new build up there and do the testing, the internal probably like post alpha testing or whatever stage they're at. So it's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah.
We didn't hear anything at the so far in the IGN Summer of Gaming, but that's because we also know that Ubisoft have got the Ubisoft Forward coming up in July. Yeah. So I'm wondering whether they're sort of holding off to give us more information about Gods and Monsters there, because let's be frank, we haven't actually heard anything about the game for quite a long time now. In reality,
it could be a Kinect. Google still have promised us a Kinect for the summer. It could be there. That might be where it's slated.
I think similar along the lines of what Tom's saying, that the fact that Ubisoft now have their own conference, and we've seen it, like the IGN Summer Games Fest has been lackluster so far. Don't feel like they've really announced anything outside of a couple of indie games, which again, if anyone didn't check it out, the Escapist Indie Showcase was on over the weekend too, which went on for about 2 or so hours of just indie game, and we had a little laugh in our chat group that basically it looked like they'd flipped a coin, either lands on we've gone for the Breath of the Wild art style or we've gone for the Cyberpunk art style. There's two aesthetics that are clearly going to be the future of indie games for 2020 and beyond. But yeah, so we are seeing games come out, and there are a few that we've got later in the news doc about games that are coming to Stadia, which we found just trickle slowly through because there's so much action going on. Essentially, it's hard to keep up, especially when Stadia sometimes isn't on the marketing, but then it is coming to the platform, and it's very hard to keep
up.
About
that. I think that I'm in this sort of boat that, again, I'm seeing within the Stadia community that we're not seeing the labels of Stadia on a lot of games, and I'm wondering whether that's because they're sort of holding off to actually announce them at a Connect as opposed to within this event, because perhaps these were all lined up prior to the Summer of Gaming deadlines. Let's say IGN set a deadline to all marketing partners and so on to say, get your materials into us by this date and we'll make sure it's there. Perhaps at that point there weren't those deals in place, and now we're waiting for a Connect to actually hear more about that. Yeah. That's how I suppose it's wishful thinking, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. It's really hard to know. I think Stadia have been kind of inconsistent with this sort of stuff. There've been games that have had trailers that we know come to Stadia and the logo's been missing, and then games that we're not expecting. It really is hard to know what's going on.
You really do have to take it all with a pinch of salt. In regards to IGN though, the Game Fest, it's still scheduled to go on for I think another 10 days, if that, with like different
back
showcases.
Up on Monday. Stop.
And Stadia, Stadia are supposed to be there, so. I don't think it's going to be a Connect, but I think we might hear maybe it's like a tech update through the IGN site or something. It's obviously some things in the pipeline. They just haven't clearly communicated with us what that is or when to expect it. Like again, Richie, I think you mentioned it on you mentioned one of the shows we were on that we'd like to know because we're going to do a reaction video to it, no doubt, if we can have a time and a spot. But either way, to put a pin in that particular story regarding Orpheus, Gods and Monsters. Does it excite you more to play the game, or does it detract from it? How do you feel on this game right now? What are your temperatures at?
I think it makes me sort of hyped a little bit for it again, but I'm still waiting to find out more. I'm still waiting for that Ubisoft Forward before I actually make a firm decision. But it's quite high up there on my list personally of things that I'm going to consider purchasing.
Yeah, I'm getting quite excited for the Ubisoft Forward.
Yes, for me, it just kind of reminds me the game is still out there. But personally, as I said, I'm not taking this. I know what the footage is. I know when it was created. I know it's completely out of date. I'm not judging anything about the game based on that.
Which is the consciously smart way to approach it. How again, the people on the internet will get angry and stuff about how bad it looks and this and that, but you're clearly not clued into understanding how game development works. I mean, the final 2-3 months of a game are just all about polish for the most part. A lot of developers now push games back through delays. I mean, we saw it with The Last of Us initially. They only asked for, I think, another 4 or 5 weeks because they saw it just to polish the whole thing up. And again, how much of that was potentially ruined by spoilers and leaks. So talk about that when you've got Stadia here putting out your whole game free to the world. And not actually saying that, before we move on, another caveat to that, those who clicked buy for £0.0 and got a receipt of their order, do they have to pay for the game when it comes out? They've already bought it for free.
Yes.
And have a receipt.
They have a license for that build of the game, probably.
So did they get that?
No, because the developers decided to pull it.
But then they've bought something
as
a consumer. Yeah, it's very, very weird. But it does beg the question: if Eddie and Link TV and such have a receipt, do they? Again, they're not going to argue.
Can it really be considered bought if it was nothing? If it costs nothing? I feel like that's a whole philosophical debate.
We're getting all on. We can talk about pro games if that's the case. Then
I think you just need to read the terms and conditions of
the
terms
absolutely.
of service.
Absolutely.
Read the terms of service, and if you find out actually no, you have the right to play that game, sue them.
Yeah, it's also not really worth.
Sue the platform you love. Why not? Hey,
for a game that costs you nothing. Done.
I'll be quiet if you send me some Stadia stickers and a hoodie. That's all it would take. But anyway, so moving on from that one, we got another bit of large news drop on Saturday, Friday night, one of the days. Out of nowhere, the game developer, the game division, I should say, Warner Brothers Games, who's currently owned by AT&T, the mobile, division over on the stateside, they've apparently put Warner Brothers Games up for sale to clear some of their $200 billion debt and basically ship their assets. So out of nowhere, we've got Take-Two, EA, and Activision, apparently the interested parties. Nothing's happened just yet. But when we heard about this on Friday, Richie, we were hyped, shocked. Immediate thoughts were, Google should buy them? What a way to get your foot in the door with some premium games.
Yeah, what we should say about the guys who've already been linked to it, they're the ones who've been linked to it. It's almost certain that other parties are interested, but keep them cards close to the chest.
Yes.
Indeed.
It's Warner Brothers. They've got some fantastic franchises under their banner at the moment. Why wouldn't you be interested in that?
There was an interesting caveat that did come out. So obviously the games and the franchise in question, you've got the Batman franchise, the Mortal Kombat franchise, and Justice was tied in. Richie, you pointed out the Lego games the other day, which are a massive cluster of covers that they cover. The Lord of the Rings Middle Earth games as well, Shadow of War and stuff. There's some big hitters really linked in with WB.
They've even got some Harry Potter mobile stuff. So
the long rumoured Harry Potter RPG, and again Rocksteady fall under that umbrella, who are working on the next Batman title. It did specify in the article that the IP doesn't necessarily move over to the new purchaser, so the likes of Batman and stuff, they don't become owned. They would have to renegotiate the franchise license essentially. However, in terms of inheriting the studios, whoever gets these, that's a massive win for however much they want to fork out for them.
This is why I thought Google Stadia could be a massive win for them, because we've just rolled off the IP. They will be up for sale. The price, it might be a case you can buy the studios, or you can buy the studios plus IP, or you can buy licensed IP, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, even if you just get the studios, these are studios that are built, already up and running, have made some fantastic games.
What better way to secure
in first party stuff?
Yeah, what better way to secure the younger audience as well than getting the Lego IP right there for the entire Lego game franchise? That's the kind of thing you want, really. I mean, you could say what you want about the Batman games, Mortal Kombat. Obviously, they're very big and long-standing titles with very big audiences, but the biggest audience right there and the most widespread and the one that's probably most likely to bring in the money is the Lego audience, really, isn't it? So it would be a good move, but do they take the whole studio? Do they take everything?
I would. It's about again, you've got to imagine someone at Google's thinking, right, we're getting a bit shit on by everyone else. We've still got our other studios that are somewhere, the bun's still in the oven. We're still waiting for that one. It's going to take some while until it's ready to go. We know we're waiting about 2 or 3 years before these big exclusive titles come out. What better way to do that? Similar to how Microsoft acquired Mojang in Minecraft. They came in, they bought an existing studio with an existing IP, and again, Google would have to play nice and everybody, so the next Batman game would have to be on all platforms. That's fine. Again, that franchise may even wrap up. The Lego games would still have to be multi-platform. You wouldn't want to damage the relationship that far. But in terms of inheriting the studio, so Rocksteady put out the current game, you've got to look forward to the next project. And just think, if you've got Rocksteady under your umbrella, you could maybe go, right, Disney, they're looking at working with other people outside of the EA licensing with Star Wars deal. Let's go to EA. Let's go to Disney. Sorry, what have you got? Marvel, right? What game are you famous for making? The Batman franchise. Okay, what character have you got? Daredevil. Put Daredevil in a Marvel-style Batman game made by Rocksteady. Add Luke Cage. Add Jessica Jones. Something like that. Boom! You've got yourself an amazing game that so many people will be hyped for. Just the fact that having the studios, that's I think the key element. You're bringing in professionals who know how to make tried and tested games. You've got your fighting game. You've got your kids game. You've got your serious superhero game. You've got to put your money where your mouth is, and I think if it's on the table, you've got to think Mr. Harrison is having conversations with Studstill and the rest of them and saying, is this worth it, do you think? Do we have our war chest to dig out of? What are your thoughts?
Depends on the number, but, it doesn't hurt Google to have it full stop. The thing is, what you have to look at is what have Microsoft been doing over the last 3-4 years? They've been hoovering up AAA studios that were independent of big publishers.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if behind the scenes they're in on this. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if Sony aren't looking at it, if Nintendo aren't looking at it, because it's one of them. You might look at it and might go, nah, we don't think it's worth the money.
But what do you think? What do you think from AT&T's perspective? Do you think they're going to divide and conquer and just split the assets off and sell them, or do you think they are going to look for a bundle deal? Because looking for a bundle it's quite a big ask if you think about it. It's quite a big ask.
Yeah,
it really depends. 200 million it seems a big number, but in terms of AT&T as a corporation, don't know how impactful that.
It's bigger than 200 million, 200 billion.
Yeah, did I say million? All right, 200 billion. But I don't know how impactful that is to AT&T. If they can play the longer game, they have the time to just wait for the best deal to come around. If they really need to get their finances in order quicker, putting a decent offer in for a bundle and getting all this shipped out, because it's not just getting money directly in for the assets, it's the overheads and running them. And so you're taking away that extra debt and you're also paying off some debt.
Yeah, and it's very interesting again to see like the sale you'd like to think they'd want to get pushed through before these studios wrap up with their current development. So like I said, Rocksteady have apparently got a game ready to go, whether it's going to be the Harry Potter thing or a Batman game. We know Warner Brothers Montreal have been teasing us for a new Batman game for the longest time now. You've got, again, Lego Skywalker Sagas out this year. And then you've got the Mortal Kombat team, just wrapped on Mortal Kombat 11 not too long ago. Realistically, all these studios are now coming to the end of their current cycle. The only other one's kind of Monolith, who do the Lord of the Rings ones. I'm expecting a third game in that trilogy to come probably next year. So realistically, you've got 5 great teams there who are now reaching the end of the cycle. If you're AT&T, you're not going to commission another whole game that might take another 3 or 4 years if you're trying to sell them on. You're going to want to say, right, wrap up the assets, let's get rid. So realistically, I would expect by the next financial year, if this is a true story, to be wrapped up by then for everyone to get all the pennies in order.
Yeah, if the number's right and Google can afford it, I think it's a win for them to do.
Yeah. And we did.
There's going to be controversy over it.
Yeah, 100%. You can't acquire third-party multi-platform studios and expect that, because again, the straight nervousness from that is, does that mean it's only going to be on Stadia? Which they could go cutthroat and just say, if you want to play these games, that's where they are. Sorry, we bought it, we own it. It's our ball. You can't play it with us if you don't want it, if you don't own it. I don't think they would. No, I don't think it
would be a good move at all.
No,
from a
publicity perspective, is to license it out to the other platforms, and you get money in from their sales as well.
And like it works so well with Minecraft. I expect to see Minecraft on the PlayStation 5 because it's so big, it almost supersedes the platform because it's massive. Like Fortnite, if that went exclusive, it'd piss everyone off. But either way, we did talk about that, Richie, and we suspect out of those 3 that were recommended initially within the story, we said EA because they're probably the most cash rich at the moment, which leads us into the next story, which is out of nowhere, almost out of light speed, some would say. We were hit with Star Wars Squadrons, EA's next game, was rumoured and leaked on the Microsoft Store, and then rather than kind of hide it away and keep it for EA Play, which happens this week, I believe, later on the week, 18th possibly. If I'm right, there's a number in there somewhere. Either way, it doesn't matter because they've just said it's coming on Monday. So when you're listening to this, it's out now. The Star Wars Squadrons EA game, which looks quite cool and I'm excited for. We're going to get a sneak peek or a first look at it tomorrow. Thoughts on this, gentlemen?
I think this is going to be a large-scale, essentially space-only Battlefront game. It's made by Motive.
Yeah.
They're the guys who made Battlefront. So... to me, like,
probably.
Yeah, it's Rogue Squadron, but on a massive multiplayer scale. Like, I love playing like the space battles on Battlefront 2, but everything looking at that image tells me it's going to be a Battlefront-esque game. So it's going to have a campaign, it's going to have lots of multiplayer modes, everything about it. I'm very excited, to be honest with you.
What I was thinking is, because there's going to be a lot of crossover between this and Battlefront 2, maybe the plan is, from EA, to take Battlefront 2, the Battlefront series, and go, you know what, this is going to be the online multiplayer experience, and Squadrons, maybe we're going to go more Rogue Squadron, go, no, this is our single-player experience. It's going to use the same engine, there's going to be crossover, and that way we have 2 distinct properties. Because one of the failures of Battlefront 2 is, although they put more single-player content in there, it was a bit lackluster in places.
Yeah. I suppose one of the problems...
to do too much, I think, that game.
One of the problems now is that if they release something like a Battlefront-esque game, they sort of have to like give you all of the content at once because there's no new Star Wars movies pending with immediate effect. So it's almost like they've got nothing to build on as in terms of seasons and so on there as well. Yeah, it could be interesting.
I personally think it's going to be all in on the multiplayer because within the Battlefront 2 world, the land battles on the ground are great. I actually think Battlefront 2 doesn't put as much emphasis on the spaceship fights as it should do because it's so fun. And I think having Squadrons, if the online is purely in the air, dogfights and big takedowns, but they add a few more elements into it, more ships, more customization options, I can see that doing really, really well. With a sweet-ass campaign, it'd be top-notch as well, because it's been a long time since I've donned the joystick and played Rogue Squadron back on the day on PC. And I've got very fond memories of Star Wars Starfighter. I think I bought that with my PlayStation 2. I got Red Faction and Star Wars Starfighter. It's my launch games. On the Naboo Starfighter, going through the canyon, like little things like that. Very, very fun to be had. I do think EA wouldn't put out another single-player game this quick off the back of Fallen Order. That's clearly their single-player content.
We also know that they've stopped support for Battlefront 2 now. There's no additional content coming out for that. So it marks the appropriate time to release a new title within that sort of franchise, like from Motive right there too.
And we know they've got about 2 years left on this deal with Disney. Which again, everyone thinks that come the end of it, they're just not going to make any more games. That's not a thing. They're just going to license it out to probably more studios. So I'm expecting a Jedi Fallen Order sequel, inevitable. They've already said. I do actually expect to see another Battlefront, but in the form of more just an online, always live. A bit like Destiny have came out and said it's not a numbered title. It's just an open world on next gen. You're going to get another Battlefront. They're going to get as many maps over from the original 2 games as possible. They might probably ditch the campaign again, which I know would get them a bit of sour press, but
I think,
not needed.
If you're not going to put the effort into making the campaign, where I always felt with Battlefront 2, probably had 2/3 of a really good story there and a load of crap in the middle.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do it properly, jettison it, come out with the messaging, this is going to be a multiplayer-only experience.
Yeah. I think it'd be great
and then do single player stuff off the side.
Yeah, I think if with a 3-pronged approach, you essentially are going to have your single player story in the middle, which is Jedi Fallen Order. You're going to have your even free online one, call it Battlefront Galaxies or something, and that is now your free to buy, play, and again all that customization thing with your clones and your suits and your lightsaber. That becomes all your personal stuff. And then the third side of that is your Squadrons, and that's your in the air flying multiplayer online, which you probably have to pay for. Maybe it's asymmetric, you hunt down one ship and Tom's suddenly sort of thought of something amazing, I'm sure. That's how I would approach it from EA's standpoint anyway.
I've just thought, what about if the next Battlefront game is, and I actually do hate to say this because I'm cringing at the thought, but I just thought about it. What about if it's Battle Royale? What about if it's sort of... if it's a mode?
Yeah, stick me in that Geonosian arena with 100 Geonosians and just me.
Right. If Battlefront, if the jettison or like things like the pay-to-win mechanics, like I hated the star cards. They just break the game, in my opinion. Anything you can do even if I know you could get them by just playing the game, but if your character has an unfair advantage over mine, I just hate that stuff in multiplayer.
It sucks today for new people getting in with the free version of it as well. I'm getting absolutely trashed online on Battlefront 2 at the moment.
It makes it unfun. It just makes the game unfun. So what you do is, for me, you jettison the single player, focus on making the single player game separate to this. Come out with the messaging. This is going to be multiplayer only. There's going to be cosmetic DLC, microtransaction stuff in there, but it's going to be cosmetic. It's going to, you know what? You stick a £50 price tag on it, give you a full year's worth of content, and then bring out season passes after that.
Either way, I'm massively hyped for more Star Wars stuff. Again, I think, Tom, you were totally correct there in saying with them not having a movie in the pipeline, we've essentially, Clone Wars has wrapped up now, Rebels has wrapped up on TV. We've got The Mandalorian still season 2 coming this year. But in terms of games, they are the great project that can essentially keep our Star Wars lust ticking over. I'm sure EA now behind closed doors going, last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
And as long as I can do a trench run, I'm happy.
Oh yes, go shoot Womp Rats as well. Yeah, it's got to be in there in all its highest fidelity, in that beautiful, beautiful Frostbite engine I think they use. But in terms of the trench run and having a roadmap, turned off your targeting computer. However, another big game online, always ever present, came out this week with a roadmap well into the future. Destiny 2 goes big with plans through right until 2022. And Tom, I know you watched this with great enjoyment because you've got right back into Destiny, I believe. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of what the updates were and what you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so it starts off first of all with the announcement of the latest season. So we've just received season 11, which is the season of arrivals. Essentially where we're at the moment is light has, from the main campaign, the light from the Traveler has exploded across the universe. And in doing so, it's awakened a new evil, an evil that has been long laying dormant for a very long time. Or is it? Is the big question. So the darkness is approaching. And what we're looking at here is we now have a list of new expansions that's going to be coming out to Destiny 2 over the next 3 years. Starting with November this year, we're going to be receiving Beyond Light, which is the first expansion. Following that, we'll be receiving The Witch Queen. And then following that, we'll be receiving one that's currently called Lightfall, but it is a pending title at the moment. Bungie have said that they are looking to essentially bring the Destiny universes together now. So rather than having the two separate games, I believe the plans are to make one single standing Destiny title with everything built into it. So all of the old campaigns that everybody may have missed out on or may have played but then skipped a little bit to jump into the new light stuff, that will all be packed into what's going to be called the Destiny Content Vault. But where we're at the moment is we're looking to the future of Destiny, and what it seems like is that they're looking inevitably to take it to next gen. We're getting 4K 60 frames per second. We're getting support for PS5. We're getting support for Xbox Series X. Hopefully, we're also going to see the 4K 60 come to Stadia too. I expect we will do. But we're also, more importantly, going to see crossplay, which is what Destiny on Stadia needs. So Destiny has certainly been picking up lately with a new arrival of the season of arrival. There we go. But it would be nice to see a fully immersive universe with everybody from every platform. That would be incredible. I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah, lots to look forward to.
It seemed like crazy excitement. Like the way they did the reveal was very, very well done as well. The two gentlemen who came out, they spoke about it, very chatty. They essentially acknowledged the elephant in the room nice and early doors. They've not worked or seen each other for months now. They made a little joke about it. They said about the updates. I very much got the impression that they were a bit hamstrung by Activision, and now they've broke from them shackles. They never really wanted to do a numbered sequel. By the sounds of it, they wanted to make the Destiny world an ever-present online thing, like we've just suggested for Star Wars.
Didn't they originally claim like a seven-year development plan for the original Destiny?
Yeah. And it's
it's always been that.
Yeah, but the vault and bringing that older stuff, they've said they can drop into the vault at any time and pull out all campaigns and strikes and raids and levels and such, and essentially disperse them almost like seasonal content. I do have a question regarding it though. If you own the kind of Stadia initial welcome pack, was that came with a season pass of some sort, right? Or...
Yeah, so it came with a season pass that included the first year of content. So that takes us up until the reveal of Beyond Light. So anybody who currently has that season, well, everybody should have it if you've got Stadia Pro, right? Yeah. But everyone should currently have the season pass that includes the season of arrivals. But come the release of Beyond Light, that season pass will expire. Now, if you do purchase Beyond Light with the deluxe edition or more on Stadia, then you do also get the next year of season passes as well. So everything taking us up then again until the Witch Queen comes out 2021.
So that kind of ties in with another story we got this week, that pre-orders went available. Destiny being the initial one. Did you pre-order?
I haven't pre-ordered yet because I'm sort of sitting on the fence with it in terms of when to spend my money. Because one thing that's risen from this pre-order system is that it does charge you immediately. Yeah. But the benefit of it is you do get the in-game bonuses that you get from pre-ordering the game day and date. You get it straight away as soon as you pay for it, which actually I think is really rather cool, because most of the times when we pre-order things, you don't get it until you get the game. Yeah. So it's kind of nice that you get something for your money.
That's what I was getting at, because we know they took the money straight away, and with it being a pre-order, we know all the other platforms do that for digital releases as well. Yeah. Something me and Richie discussed on Rock Show, I believe it was that because the pre-order for the DLC it doesn't count as a game, you can't get refunds on them.
That's true.
There's no like 2 week wait period or how long played. It's because it's not counted as a game. There's no refunds,
and that was tried and tested by Stadia Source as well. So shout out to Stadia Source and Duncan in particular for digging into his wallet to try that out.
I don't think they tried and tested it. I think they just did it and then they couldn't get a refund.
It's still trial and error. Trial and error.
It's one to be very wary of. If you put your money down on that, that's it. You're not getting that money back.
It's gone. But you're getting to play all the DLC season pass content. So again, it seems to be evolving into the way that a lot of games as a service are going now, which I personally would prefer them all to just be a world. Seeing a sequel, them to come out with potentially Destiny 3 in 2023 seems like an odd move, because again, you're trying to uproot your entire audience and shift them over to another game.
Fragmenting what is essentially a well-developed universe of content, and it shouldn't be done. It shouldn't be done.
The weird thing is, World of Warcraft popularized MMOs globally, and World of Warcraft is still just World of Warcraft. So I don't know why others are trying different models, because they've got a model that you don't have to go maybe the subscription model. Maybe you go the season.
There's no World of Warcraft 2.
Yeah.
But again,
you buy the game and you get your season passes.
But a lot of that I think has came from the generation leaps in platforms. So obviously, Destiny originally was PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. So it's that graphical enhancement where I've said many times. I think we're at the point now where graphics aren't going to get that much better. I mean, they are, but you know, like the little interstitial updates. We all saw that Unreal Engine demo. But in terms of like Destiny, it's looked beautiful since day one. So I think people are quite happy with what they've got. And we've seen the likes of Fortnite are coming out on next-gen consoles. Another little kind of sprinkle of news to drop in there. Sony at the PlayStation event announced Grand Theft Auto 5 is making another leap. It's skipping a whole generation. No GTA 6 for PS4, Xbox One. Does this mean Stadia could be getting GTA if it's coming to next-gen?
It's possible.
Yeah, I'd say at some point it's going to hit. I've got a bit of a sour taste in my mouth about GTA 5 persisting, to be honest with you. I just sort of feel like it's literally milking the cash cow for what it's worth. It's like massively milking that cash cow.
I know where you're coming from, but people are still buying stuff, people are enjoying it, so they're reacting to what the basic to market forces. If they felt that it made more sense to bring out GTA 6, there's no doubt in my mind they're working on it.
But to me, that tells me that Rockstar are a little bit more greedy from a money perspective rather than the fan base perspective and trying to please them. I've literally got this guy, like this visual again of like a country fair and everyone's lining up to milk their cows, and there's just this massive hench bloke wearing a Rockstar t-shirt with just a cow that is just basically skin and bones because there's nothing left.
But it keeps getting topped up, like Richie said. It's in the top 10 games. Who has not bought this game yet? And every week, it's probably Rockstar just buy it themselves just to keep it in circulation. But like, I played this game. It feels like a lifetime ago. I'm in a totally different place in my life. I was a child when I played GTA 5 originally. I've moved on. I'm about to buy my second console after the fact now. I played the story.
Is it 10 years?
It must be like 2012.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah,
at the point where
2013.
they've probably been waiting for the generational shift before they release the next game, and maybe they look at it and go, well, we're not there. Maybe we're looking at it and go, we're not there yet. If we take a bit more time, we can make something even better. Yeah. Let's just port this across.
I mean, it's an easy win, right? Because it prints money. It literally prints money. And it's one of those things where would I jump back into it? I don't know, but
I never actually played it in any real depth. I played about half an hour while trialing PS Now before, when we first started this podcast, and that was a disaster. Yeah.
And I do think, Tom, what links into saying like about all the money and such is the fact that we've not seen any more story content. We've not seen anything like an Undead Nightmare for like Red Dead Redemption, which was great first time around. They've very much shifted now towards, well, we can print money using the shark card points and customization things, and they've gone all wacky and zany with Back to the Future flying cars and races and spaceships and everything like that, which I totally get. It feeds into the kind of narrative of what the game's super fun. You can do anything. Grand Theft Auto is essentially 10 games folded into one. Racing, sports, murder, gun, everything like that. It's all there, which is kind of why do you need something else? Which again, I think Rockstar would love it to just be Grand Theft Auto Online. Forget the rest of it. This is the living world.
And we do understand that without trying to make it centered around other consoles, we know that when it comes to next gen, that they are bringing the online version essentially immediately at release, aren't they? Yeah. With the updated version over time. It's definitely got a heavy focus on the online now. Yeah. They don't really care about the single player that much anymore, I don't think.
Exactly.
They probably do for GTA 6, but
the
single player is done and dusted with GTA 5, so it's the online world is. I can guarantee it's way better than it ever thought possible.
Oh,
you might find I've seen theories where GTA 5 will almost like fragment, so then you'll get the online only GTA, and then the numbered GTA series will be single player.
I mean,
so you have that consistent world because they've got it.
It makes sense. It makes sense, and it's a business model that works. Like Rockstar essentially now is a one game per generation studio, which is crazy.
You get Red Dead.
Yeah, but that like say a new game. Red Dead 2 is the only thing that came out in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Bar a port, which is crazy. They must be sitting on so much money. They could go out and buy WB Games at this point. Just get them in the door.
Rockstar owns Lego.
That doesn't feel like a Rockstar move, though.
No, not at all. Not at all. They don't want to spend money. They just want to rake it all in. No. Keep it all for themselves. But
Rockstar are sneakily working on. So they've got a modern day title. They've got an old Western title. Perhaps they're working on a sci-fi title as well, going cyberpunk as well, because everybody else is.
Exactly. But
and an open world fantasy.
Yeah. I think we will say caveat at this point in this episode, ladies and gentlemen, strap in because you're in for a longer one this week. It's definitely. I don't even want to skim on any of the news though because it's so good. So yeah, if you're here so far,
50 minutes in.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Lock in, strap in, put in Grand Theft Auto into your other platform, and we are ready to go. Like Rockstar, we will just keep going. Yeah. Another news story then we did get. Tom, you touched on it briefly earlier, but essentially Google have rolled out the update we alluded to on story number 1, and you can now play Stadia experimentally, in quotes, on any Android device, any modern Android device. You simply go into the Stadia app, you go to your settings, you go to a little cocktail bottle of potions, turn on experimental mode, and boom, you're away. They do caveat that with saying it may not work because it's not officially signed off. However, this is opened up to anyone running modern day Android version. I personally have tested it on my Samsung Galaxy tablet. Works fine. Wonderful. I can now play Stadia on the move on a bigger screen than my Samsung phone. I'm happy. Gentlemen, have you managed to trial it on it? I know, Tom, iOS, we won't talk about that just yet.
Yeah. So I have, there's a few things. I mean, first of all, it's a touchscreen overlay of a Stadia controller. It's never going to be good. I don't think that sort of touchscreen works, to mimic a controller. But it works. I mean, there's certain games you're not going to be able to play Destiny on this touchscreen unless you're insane.
I think you fragmented the story, Richie. I was talking about just you can download it and play it. So I've been playing it on my Samsung tablet with my PlayStation 4 DualShock Bluetooth connected up. But yes, another link to that update story was touchscreen controls are also available. Which continue on. They don't work for most games because you can't play Destiny. You can't play. I'd argue anything comfortably.
You can play simple party games. If I think about something like Spitlings, you could probably play Spitlings quite
up down
comfortably.
I disagree on Spitlings. There's fast twitch stuff in there. There's 2 games I've been referencing for this. I think Football Manager and Octopath Traveler could work.
I've heard Octopath works quite well for it because of it being turn-based and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything fast-paced that requires the triggers, you shit out of luck. You are not scoping and shooting by you just don't have the dexterity.
Playing PUBG with your touchscreen.
Yeah, until gamers have evolved to Cyberpunk era when we've got 6 fingers and we can grip our phones in some creepy crane neck. It's not going to work. A controller is always the best way to play, in my opinion.
I think Megatron X did say she'd used it a bit for things like inventory management in Destiny. So stuff like that, if you're on your dinner at work, just a quick bit of inventory management. It can be a useful feature. Yeah,
that could work. Could work. But it's great to see that these updates are finally rolling around, and I think the fact that it opens up to Android as a whole on an experimental front, there is millions upon millions of devices in the world that stock Android. Again, Apple iOS has that big front for an Apple, but we've got to remember Android is across so many different manufacturers, so many different brands, so many different devices, whether it's tablets now already running Chrome essentially. I think Linux as well, they also came out with a version for that. It will work on that, I should say. But it's great to see, and as a bonus point to that, the Stadia app has now crossed over the 1 million downloads mark. So that means that you'd like to think that means numbers, or people who are at least contemplating playing Stadia on the move, are willing to try it out. We've ticked over that magic 1 million, so it's all good, gentlemen. It's on the up.
I think it's quite, as of today as well, there's been a lot more digging in the APK as well. And today being the time of recording on Sunday, the 14th, there is also potentially the scope that we might be seeing a little bit more from features like crowdplay coming very soon, and also YouTube integration. We know Gem over from the community, Gem Stadia at Gem Stadia on Twitter, has been doing a lot of digging around inside the latest APK and behind the scenes with the Google apps, and has found a lot of stuff in there that lends itself to us believing that actually we have things in the works here to actually see more rollouts coming very, very soon. So exciting stuff, because we're getting a lot of stuff coming very soon.
Ooh, it does not end. The tap is turned on and the tops came off, and it's free flow now.
No!
It's gonna go washed away in Stadia.
I'm drowning!
In Stadia news.
By Stadia.
To be fair, if you've got a waterproof phone, technically you could still play Stadia underwater. The touchscreen may not respond very well with the water.
If the touchscreens don't work, can you really play? You can look at Stadia.
You can watch a cutscene maybe or something like that. But in terms of flowing news, we got out of all the IGN games and the showcases that we've seen, we got a couple of games also announced this week. We've got Windbound, which came from the Escapist Indie Showcase, and we also got System Shock, which is dug out of the IGN Games Fest by our friends over at Stadia Source, Dan and the team. Two games, gentlemen, very, very different. Obviously, Windbound was the flip of the coin. Was it going to be Cyberpunk? Was it going to be Zelda? It was Zelda this time round.
Yep.
Have you had a chance to take a look at Windbound so far?
I have taken a look at I caught the trailer when it was actually airing on there, and I'm quite excited for that as well. Again, I really like that art style. I was a big fan of Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild as well. This sort of like cell shaded.
It's almost halfway between.
It is. And also, I think if I remember, there was a game that came out a while ago, Rime as well. Rime also had a very similar sort of style. Again, by Tequila Works, the same people who made Guilt, and it has. It's one of these sorts of worlds, like those visuals really capture me for a video game. I like the idea that you can build and sort of like add on to your craft to sail between all of the islands. And essentially it's almost got that sort of survival Monster Hunter almost-esque feel to it. Very, very much mixing a lot of ideas from different games. But yeah, I'm super excited by it. Super excited.
Yeah,
same.
Do you think it took any inspiration from Gods and Monsters with the art style?
Potentially. Art style that's very, very common, I think, for India in smaller teams now to produce, and it's very that sharp kind of crisp, clear color palette. I think is really appeasing to people. It really does appeal quite well.
And as well.
Yeah. The other one, System Shock, came out, which is a totally different style game than what Windbound, what we just mentioned. It's kind of like an 80s. It reminds me of Alien. The Alien trilogy used to get on PlayStation 1. I think I had it on.
System Shock is an old title that's been remastered. Yeah, it's
94 original release.
Yeah. I remember it originally coming out. First person action adventure. Definitely again sort of that it's sort of a cross between like cybery, almost zombie-esque as well. It's a big mix of that sort of feel, really.
Is that anything to do with BioShock? I feel like I've heard someone mention it's either from the same people or the same team?
It inspired BioShock.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, right. I knew I'd heard something, and obviously with it being a shooter and a creepy. Is it zombies you're trying to kill or some form of infected people?
Yeah. It's in essence, I don't know too much about it. I just remember the gameplay of it because it's a very old title from as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
At the age of playing it, but it is highly touted as being a really good game, like an incredible game of its time. So
another one coming to Stadia. Following on from that, then we got another one which reminds me of Octopath from the artwork straight away. Jumps out. Is it Chris Tales or is it Chris? Tales. It is just Chris Tales.
I'm just say Chris Tales.
Stories from me.
Yeah, your stories.
So
your stories.
Sit back and relax for a lovely pixelated journey with myself, and we'll get a drink in and we'll sit and talk.
It's an ode to the classic JRPG style again, but with a different take on art style. Again, another title that I think I know I'm certainly excited. And Richie, I suppose I could probably say you're the same. JRPGs.
I do like my JRPGs. To be honest, I haven't looked into Chris Tales much.
Chris's Tale.
When it first I looked into it when it first announced like a couple of months ago, and I haven't looked at it since. So I've just stalling for time while I watch the trailer.
Absolutely fine.
You added it into the doc as we were talking. So
don't tell them how it's made. We knew about this all along.
It's fine.
It does have
if you like. Yeah, if you like titles like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Valkyrie Profile, Bravely Default, Persona 5, Richie, I know you've been playing Persona 5 a few months ago, but yeah, definitely the kind of title that you would like to invest in. I know, again, this is actually with the announcement. It was sort of a stealth announcement. This one was. I think it was just picked up randomly by the community, but definitely one that when it comes to Stadia, that will be on my list for sure. For sure.
Excellent. But,
interestingly, I think there's a demo available on Steam.
Ooh.
Yeah, there is.
It's planned to come out on my birthday.
Aha.
Oh, lovely.
At least on Steam.
Treat yourself.
So there we go.
Now, speaking of all these new games that have come out, then Stadia have lovingly delved into their Google pot, and they've came out again as part of the updates this week out of nowhere. People, I think, were expecting some pro deals. However, instead, you now get £10 off your next purchase for pro subscribers. Now, Barry, one of our patrons, as you'll know, wrote into the show, just like you can, over at patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. And he writes in and asks, what are your thoughts on the £10 off the next purchase to existing subscribers? Is it a form of apology because we know they've not been great with communication of late? Or is it just an out-and-out drive to increase game sales on the platform? And if it is an out-and-out drive for sales, how do we perceive that from a statistics side? Does that mean Stadia's not doing well, so they're trying to get numbers to jump up? Or are we seeing maybe subscribers drop off due to the Cyberpunk confusion? So, gentlemen, what's your take on this? Is this just Stadia being generous? Are they making up for something? Is it
so many levels? This question.
Is it a box of chocolates and flowers, or?
I think first of all, let's take the apology route. If they apologise for bad communication, they haven't told us that's why they give it to us, which makes it null point, null and void anyway.
Woo! Going in circles.
Yeah. You don't apologise for bad communication with bad communication, and still, here's some money. It's like,
it's hush money.
I don't think it's that. I think they're probably trying just a few things out because they keep giving us monthly pro deals. So what maybe they thought this time, instead of discounting specific games, maybe they just give us some money and let's see what people spend it on.
It's your own deals. I like it. Yeah, it's almost like pick. I mean, if you think about it, we've got platforms out there like Humble Bundle that does really well every month as well, where you can pay. You could pay for bundles of games essentially, and you almost get to pick and choose if you go for the Humble Choice bundles too. And I suppose that mechanic could almost work, and that takes us. It possibly opens up another discussion there for. It's taking us a little bit closer to that Netflix style model almost. Only you're just like you're going to pick the games you like, but just get them discounted.
I think as well that the 2-month trial for free is coming to an end. So by giving you £10 effectively £10 in your account, it entices people to stick around and to spend that money in the platform.
Yeah.
But I think crucially for me, it's data for them. You've given every player £10 or $10, depending where you are. What games are you buying? What are you spending that money on?
Yeah, it's very
solid 6. You got a solid 6+ months as well to use it. So just to confirm, this £10 sits in your account and they're ready to use on the first purchase until the 31st of December this year. So you've got if you're not looking to purchase anything and just looking to reap the benefits of Pro, which you're fully entitled to do, absolutely, that's what it's there for. That's what you're paying your $8.99 a month for. But you've got a choice of any game you want on the platform and £10 off. So what I'd like to know is, if I bought SteamWorld Dig, which is $6.99, I'm going to assume that I lose the rest of that. I'm going to assume that.
Yes.
If you use that money, then I'd say yes.
I would assume, yeah.
My assumption would be it's a £10 block. You can use it however you like, whatever game you like. But if it's on one purchase on a game, I don't think it counts for DLC.
It should be. Oh no, it does. It works on DLC as well.
DLC,
yeah. So you essentially the wording should be up to the value of perhaps something
credit.
Like that.
You don't get store credit after the fact. Yeah, it's a
cannot be exchanged for cash.
It's a model with all experience and various avenues of life. It's a gift card. Oh, you can't get a refund on your gift cards. It's the same thing.
Exactly. So that follows me up then, gentlemen. Is there anything that's tickled your fancy now? Now you've got £10 free to spend.
So I had a conversation with Richie about this. I was still considering picking up Octopath Traveler, but even with the £10 off, it's still exactly the same price as it is on the Switch. So I'm still sort of not really feeling it yet because the game has been out for some time. I know there's a lot to the game, and it's probably justified at that price. But, you know me, being a stickler for cash and so on, I'd sort of like to just hang around and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, for me, if I had to pay If I wanted to buy Octopath Traveler now, I think I probably would use it and buy it on Stadia, because as much as I love my Switch, Stadia I do think is a bit more convenient. But I actually
on your phone.
I've been playing it a hell of a lot on my Switch, and I actually just enjoy the experience of Octopath Traveler on a portable device, and the screen's about the right size for just laying on your couch with it. It's good, so I can't really say which way I would go.
Good.
It's hard.
What about you, Chris? Anything?
Nothing's really got my fancy at the moment. I'm kind of waiting just to see what like the new releases of games are going into it. I'll be honest, my next couple of kind of probably weeks are looking at The Last of Us Part 2.
Same.
Sorry, non-Stadia fans. And probably Ghost of Tsushima following on from that. So 2 big exclusives that unfortunately I can't play on Stadia, and as a massive gamer, they're massive games I'm looking forward to. At the moment, Valhalla's kind of the only next thing in my headlights that I'm looking to play until something exciting or new drops that we know about, that maybe is a connector from Ubisoft. We'll see. I've always said all along, Stadia is now my third party go-to thing. So if it's not exclusive to PlayStation, I'll happily play it on Stadia. But in all honesty, I'm still powering through Odyssey, so I might spend it on some Ubisoft points and get myself a skin or something for Cassandra and Phobos. So we'll see. But other than that, I've got till December, right? So
I'm in a similar position to you. There's 3 big titles that I want to play on PlayStation this year: Final Fantasy VII Remake, Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima. That's probably going to take up the bulk of the next few months of gaming. I am planning on jumping into ESO. I'm not abandoning the Stadia, don't worry. But it's just like, at the moment, there's nothing really jumping out that I want to play, which is why I think I've been bouncing between games a lot recently. It's why I'm playing Octopath.
Great point though, Richie. And Ashley writes in to our Patreon. Remember, just like you can, at patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. And she asks, on the cusp of Elder Scrolls Online launching, so 2 days from the point of recording, gentlemen, are you excited? And what are your plans for any factions, clans, guilds, anything like that?
Super excited. Super bloody excited, to the point that I'm still debating, even though I'm still in this scenario right now where things are really up in the air and I'm finding myself incredibly busy trying to sort out things in relation to moving. I'm still sort of really in the mindset of doing something really special for Elder Scrolls launch on Tuesday, which it's going to be the day after this comes out. So if you're listening to this again on Monday, it's out tomorrow. It's literally out the next day. So we're really close.
Right there.
I would love to try to get a guild up and running. Historically, with MMORPGs, I have run several guilds before. Back when I used to play Ragnarok Online, on Final Fantasy, on World of Warcraft, I've done it several times. I know there are a lot of Stadia-related communities already organizing guilds and groups because they've jumped into the PC version. So I am aware that by doing so, we might limit ourselves, but I do like to keep it close-knit and keep it with friends and keep it with, people who are of a like mind. But I'm very much for it. Very, very much for it.
Exciting stuff.
I'm very much excited for the game, but not as much as you, Tom, but I am also going in as blind as possible. So I'm trying to cast aside any preconceived notions I had in the past about the game. Just go completely in blind, so I'll probably just follow you.
Follow you blindly into the dark of Elder Scrolls.
Pretty much.
I might jump in for a bit. Again, I know nothing of it other than Davy Jones is in it from Pirates of the Caribbean, and
no, he isn't.
You're mixing your games, Chris. You're mixing your games.
This is their problem. Then they're not marketing it clearly enough. I joke. We also got, aside from new games coming out this week, that's fantastic. Again, if you have any questions that you want to send us, head over to Patreon. Genuinely, we will read them out on the show. We'll give you our opinions and share our thoughts. That's what it's there for. It's about you being more involved with our little small community. So definitely write in if you have a question that you think, damn it, they didn't answer it this week yet again. Let us know your thoughts. A couple of wrap-up stories, a little bit of a few smaller ones, really. We finally got a date for Relicta. I know, did we clarify if that's what you call it?
Well, when we first had it announced, we spent about 3 minutes actually just saying the word Relicta over and over again. Relicta. Yes. Relicta.
Speaking of names, games that could do with naming conventions maybe being changed, that one, Yeah, maybe just have a look at it. It's a bit late now, maybe, but either way, August 4th, 2020 is when it's dropping on Stadia, Xbox, PS4, and PC. So we got to see ourselves up on the main page with the rest of them, finally, up with the big boys. We also Stadia rating in Brazil for Saints Row the Third remaster came out, which do we believe the Brazil ratings board?
Well, I would love to see Saints Row the Third, because actually, if you like GTA and you want something ridiculously over the top with a bit of a piss take, get it, because it has a giant 18 rated purple weapon that I will not discuss on this episode. But I loved that game. Absolutely loved it. It's just fun.
Was that the one where you got superpowers as well?
There were later in one of the DLCs they added sort of they added a lot of crazy stuff.
You start off as the president, right? Is that this one?
Not this one. Not this one.
Well,
no.
I might have to play this one then.
The biggest takeaway for me for this is rated in Brazil. Stadia's not currently in
Brazil.
Brazil.
That was my question. Like, do we trust a ratings board when Stadia's like, I've seen it on the Twitter threads, how many people ask for when Stadia coming to Brazil, when Stadia coming to here, and maybe to take a big pinch of salt with that one.
I don't know. I think it's that Stadia are probably getting things set up to run into Brazil, because they want to go worldwide.
Absolutely. And
I was one of the biggest is crying out for it.
I was going to say one of the things that I was looking into very recently was the analytics worldwide to see how Stadia does globally in terms of search presence. And we know we've got a Connect pending, and we know we currently only have 14 countries that can access the service. Yep. The Latin Americas, the Middle East, and the like Australia, New Zealand are crying out for Stadia at the moment. Like, they need to launch to those markets, because I think they'll see a huge uptake. Yeah. Huge uptake.
This kind of makes me think that if at IGN they're not doing a game showcase, they're going to keep the games for the Kinect. Maybe at IGN we do get a little interstitial kind of features and spec update. We could get updates about Stadia quote-unquote 2.0. Off the back of the PlayStation 5 now fully being out and announced, we know what the competition looks like. So maybe this is a time to, in and amongst all the game announcements, have a little half-an-hour window where they say new server blades, better teraflops, released in 10 more countries around the world. Here's the pro games for July. The 3-month rollover period is going to happen. Here's $10 for free. If there's ever a better time while lockdown is still going on to get on board, now is it. Go fill your boots. Australia, Latin America, all that kind of stuff.
For me, I'd just tell us if you have got a Connect planned, which I think you should, because bear in mind this is technically E3 week right now.
Yeah.
So get your Connect out there, but have it timed so you can almost IGN can do a post show. IGN is the biggest gaming news site in the world. Mm-hmm. Why not leverage that?
Yeah, definitely.
Get your message out there. Drop your Connect at IGN.
But again, I think the best thing about all these rumours coming out is that the Stadia's in the conversation now. I know there's been lots of game announcements where they've not featured, but just because the logo is not embezzled across it, that doesn't have me now fearful thinking we're never going to get it. I think it's just a matter of brokering those deals behind the scenes. I do think the lack of GDC this year has probably hampered that somewhat. But that doesn't mean, again, how many games are we still expecting? Probably another 90 or so for 2020. And here we are at the halfway point of the year, and we've still... The needle's not tipped to the heavy end, where I really do think across all platforms we are expecting a massive back end of the year filled with games, and we'll be here to report on it.
Yep,
we indeed will.
Sure.
But I think that brings a wrap to the news. There are a couple of other stories, but they're not really massively pertinent. I would like to get your two gentlemen's takes on the PlayStation 5 news that dropped. It's kind of the elephant in the room. We're talking all things Stadia, but one of the biggest competitors, if not the biggest competitor to Stadia, did reveal this week their new sexy box that came out, and a couple of big first party exclusive titles. What are your thoughts? Did it make you envious of it not coming to Stadia? Are you going to get the white two-tone box?
I was thinking more about the box personally, and I for one am very excited to receive my PlayStation Camino person thing, because I do think it very much looks like one of those Camino ones with the giant like black slim bits.
It's been meme-tastic.
It has.
Tower Barradua. It's like...
I quite like the Netgear router with the two envelopes sellotape to the side of it as well.
The PS2 with just a fold around it.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, like, it doesn't matter when a console comes out. I mean, look at the Xbox Series X reveal. It's called the Xbox Fridge now, for God's sake. So, you know, people meme everything that's like that. Yeah. But I was, I'm very excited by it. I think a lot has gone into the design of it, but I do believe it's going to be a lot bigger than the current PlayStation 4 as well.
It needs to be, from a technical standpoint, in order to get the power behind it, it needs to be bigger. And
to allow for the heat, if anything.
Well, this is where I was going to go with the curves, which are one of the malign things. Is I think the curves are very much a technological design choice, because Microsoft went one way. We're going to give you a mini tower, so you have to stand it upright.
Basically a computer.
Yeah, I think PlayStation going, well, we're going to still give you a game console thing, so you might be able to mount it horizontally. But by having these curves, it means you can get airflow underneath.
Yeah.
That thing's been in a wind tunnel, 100%.
But you know what? We're going to do all of our marketing. It's going to be vertical, because that is the best way to store it.
I do think I quite like the fact that they're going with a digital version and a non-digital version. I do think the digital version looks way sleeker. I don't like the disc drive. But that being said, if you lie it down flat, the disc drive is masked a little bit more. Yeah. But it's just the asymmetric design of it didn't really sit very well with me.
My overall impressions of it is I don't like white plastics. I think they just look cheap and tacky.
White.
I do not. I absolutely despise the look of the DualSense. And if it wasn't for the DualSense, I think I could get by with the look of that console. But the DualSense is just horrendous. It's ugly.
I just think white is a very bold move for Sony. It's a very bold move because it's not their color traditionally at all. So it's bold.
It rubs me up the wrong way a little bit as well. I've said to Richie on our non-recorded episode that all technology I own is usually just a flat rectangle, and very much for the most part it comes in a black color. I've got like, you're talking like keyboards, mobile phones, tablets, my old consoles, televisions, screens, monitors. Everything is just this little black rectangle. And it's how technology's been for my entire life, pretty much. Even right back to getting your first computer, they were just block colours of rectangles. All of a sudden, this curvy, futuristic, cyberpunk-looking blue neon white thing that's going to sit in my kind of games console area space. It's very jarring to get used to. Yeah, I might have to buy a separate cabinet to fit the thing in. But what it does kind of lean towards, in terms of the presentation and communication, very sleek, very professional. The overall thing, the way they announced games, drop them in, and I think the perfect order. They went off with a massive Spider-Man reveal to get the hype up. It just was kind of hit after hit after hit, and then wrapped up the whole show with the reveal of the console. Very well done, very timed, very professional, and it was actually really nice to watch something that wasn't somebody in the bedroom with a green screen and Xbox behind them just saying, "Hi, I usually work in an office," but because it was, I'm glad they took the time to refine it and make it look professional, because it sends out a very clear message that we are number one in this industry right now, and I think there will be for some time based on what they showcased.
For me, I think they know what their strengths are. Their strengths are very much in the games. So we're going to do the showcase, which is going to be 90% about the games. A few other little things in there. The top brought up the SSD and ray tracing and things again, dotted throughout. But then they ended with that one last thing, and the one last thing is, you know what, you've been waiting for this, here's what the box looks like. The reveal was amazing. I don't like the look of the thing, but from a showcase point of view, it was a good reveal.
Now, I think the biggest thing for me, to wrap all that up in a nice little bow, is, again, it's going to be, they didn't reveal the price, the costing, and I think definitely we should have a long conversation between the three of us once we know the prices of these future consoles, how realistically it's going to stack up against Stadia, because I think there's rumours of, I've seen Amazon listings in different countries where it's coming in at $600, pounds, whatever it may be. That can't be understated when it comes to comparing it to Stadia, and I think this is where, going to next gen, Google need to up their marketing tenfold, because they can afford that, because the consumer is going to be looking at how the future of games does look, and one's going to be £500, one's going to be less than 100 potentially. That's a big.
It costs nothing. You don't even need to if you have a Chromecast Ultra in your house, you can buy the controller for 60 quid and you go your way.
That's not nothing. That's 60 quid then.
Or an old laptop,
which you still have to buy at some point though.
Yeah, but you could just play on your phone.
Most people already have some sort of device, like a tablet, a phone, a laptop, and that's the selling point. Again, we've rattled on like it's what we do, you know.
It's what we
but
do.
yeah, I get what Richie's saying. Richie's saying.
Totally.
The cost of entry is very minimal in comparison to dropping £600. I'm expecting a base version to come out about $499, with the higher end coming out at $599. I'll be very interested to see what the digital version comes out at.
Yeah, someone who still has physical media for his games, I feel like I'm going to be paying a bit more for that disc drive.
I would prefer to pay more for the disc drive purely on the grounds that you might pay, even if it's £100 more for the disc drive at launch. If you shop smartly on using things like Amazon, wait like 6 months for games, often the game can drop by about £30 in the space of 6 months.
That's true.
You'll make that money back in a year.
Yeah. We know with digital in particular, I mean, we see it within Google Stadia itself that the games tend to still remain at full price regardless of like how long the game has been out. Yeah. So, you know, for what it's worth, the investment.
Not on a shelf getting older, they're just ever present in that store. And if there's no date on it, no one knows if it's new or old. It's just there on the storefront.
I think this is the last generation with physical media. I think this is why Sony's done it. They're not ready to completely jettison it, but they transition people over. We're going to do one more generation. We're going to bring in the discless one, I'm assuming at a low price point, to encourage that purchase, to encourage purchases through their store, which unfortunately is probably going to be the last nail in the coffin for physical retailers.
Yeah, I agree. But it's almost as though an all-digital version suggests that the future is in cloud gaming and digital downloads, which thankfully we've planted our flag in the right space, because here we are talking all things Google Stadia on episode 38 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. We've had one hell of a show this week. It's been super long, so thank you very much for sticking with us. I believe this is probably our longest show to date for the podcast, episode 38. Who knew that there would be more stuff and more news coming out week on week for Google Stadia? But thank you for sticking along with us. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel on youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia. If you are like-minded or new to the channel, and hopefully you've enjoyed the show, if you've stuck around this long, you certainly must have had some form of interest, whether it's our three faces or it's just the news in general. Remember, you can head over to our partnership program, which is with the UK Stadia group, which is facebook.com/groups/Google Stadia UK group, and talk to some like-minded gamers and individuals who are pretty much getting on the Elder Scrolls bandwagon this week. So if you're excited and you're interested, that's the channel to check out as well. Don't forget to follow us over on twitter.com/Sounds of Stadia. Be kept in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes of Road to Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Richie's final few episodes of Lost Words Beyond the Page, and whatever Tom's got cooking up for the week ahead with Elder Scrolls Online. So watch this space, keep it checked and locked to our channel. Thank you very much for watching Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode 38. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia, everybody. Thank you very much. Take care. Have a good week. Bye.